right? Because what they're saying is that Congress is now trying to pass that American Beef Labeling Act to amend the Agricultural Marketing Act of 1946. So I went back, I read the current bill, and then I went back to that Marketing Act of 1946, and I was trying to piece together the history of it. And so this is something that I wanted to talk with you today, because this tells you, as though you and I haven't already peeled back the layers of deception of labels, right? We've already shown you the complexity of it. Right. This adds in a whole nother level of complexity, in my opinion, and a whole nother, it brings you to a new awareness that even the United States government doesn't have control over our food supply all the time. All right, so this is what I found. So for many years, agricultural commodities have actually been exempted from these cool requirements, right? Ever since the Tariff Act of 1930, these agricultural products were exempted until the 2002 Farm Bill. That Farm Bill amended, again, the Agricultural Marketing Act of 1946, and it did require the labeling. It required the labeling for beef and lamb and pork, and fish and shellfish, peanuts, fruits, vegetables. So it actually did require labeling for beef. But then what happened was in 2016, there was an appropriations bill that modified which products were going to be covered so that these cool laws no longer applied to beef and pork. And that appropriation bill was signed by President Obama. So, although, and I don't mean that, I'm saying that as a historical, fact, right. But obviously this has been a bipartisan effort. Okay, I'm not singling out either side. So it actually was, beef was included, but then, as I said, in 2016, it got taken out. So now the most recent regulation applies the cool laws only to lamb, chicken, goat meat, perishable agricultural commodities, macadamia nuts, pecans, peanuts, and ginseng. So other meats, right, lamb, chicken, and goat meat are still required to have country of origin labeling, unless they're in a processed food. Actually, that's a caveat, but they're still required to have this country of origin labeling on the meat product. But somehow beef and pork got taken out. So I thought, well, that's weird. And at first I thought, oh, this just screams of lobbyists, but then this is what I found out. So once it was passed that there was going to be this labeling requirement, we as a country faced legal challenges from the World Trade Organization because of Mexico and Canada. So Mexico and Canada, who send a lot of beef to us, they threatened to impose over $1 billion of tariffs against the United States unless the labeling was removed. And that's why, as a result of the pressure, President Obama signed the appropriation bills removing the requirement. Now, what I found just kind of fascinating here, and a little bit like I lost even more faith in our food supply, is that went back and forth. So between the United States and Canada and Mexico, them threatening this tariffs against us, and then bringing a lawsuit through the World Trade Organization, that went back and forth for many years. And we kept losing and we kept appealing. And finally, in October 2014, the World Trade Organization Compliance Panel ruled that Canada and Mexico were successful in arguing that our rules presented a technical barrier to trade because of the increased production, segregation, and record-keeping requirements. And in December of 2015, Canada and Mexico were actually given approval by the World Trade Organization to move forward with their $1 billion worth of retaliatory tariffs against us. And so that's when Congress passed that 2016 Consolidation Appropriation Act that Obama signed, and it repealed the cool requirements for the beef and pork. On the heels of that, the USDA secretary at the time was Vilsack, and he sent out guidance that the USDA will no longer enforce the cool regulations for beef and pork in accordance with the new laws. So that meant the retailers, when you go into the grocery store, they no longer had to label the country of origin. But again, they're still in effect for the chicken, lamb, and the goats. So this was specifically for the beef and the pork. So to me, I read this and I thought, so not only is this another layer of complexity of our food supply, but this shows you that not even our own government, even when they are well-intentioned, right? Even when they want to impose these labeling requirements for country of origin, they can be overridden by the interests of other countries. And in this case, that we had to bow down to the authority of the World Trade Organization. So you know what I'm saying? It reveals another layer of complexity, another layer of, we really don't have control over our food supply in some areas. And when you want to change your food supply, right, like you and I really promote a free market solution, so we can talk about that too. But when a lot of people who still have faith in the government regulation of the food supply, when they want a change in the food supply, what do? Right, just like the Center for Food Safety is doing now, right? They're trying to go through Congress to pass another act, right? But as we're seeing here, once again, I think you would agree with me, that's not a good solution for us, because what's going to happen this time if they pass it? Are we going to be brought to the World Trade Organization again and sued and get into a tariff war? I mean, and this is why, you know, in our podcast about the GMO labeling lie that we just did, this is why I called these labeling wars, because these are constant battles that go on. And now this battle is not just between the consumers, the government, and the food industry. It's bringing in other countries. So you may think that you can go through and you might win a little battle, like, oh yay, we got that GMO labeling law passed, right? Score for us. And then comes, as we revealed what's really in that regulation, right? That's not helping you. That's contributing to the deception that you see on these labels. So for me, this is one more reason why we should not be putting our faith in the system. We need to become our own solution.